listener production.
Hey, Chris Beery with you. Happy Friday and welcome to The Briefing. The Super Bowl halftime show is an event in and of itself, and while headline artists bring big buzz, they can also stir a lot of debate, and this year's pick is no exception.
There were obviously a lot of political figures who weren't happy about it. You know, Trump was very vocal, which I think is such a shame because this is such a beautiful moment in history for the Latino people.
That deep dive into Bad Bunny's rise to megastardom and the controversy around his historic halftime appearance is coming up in the second half of this episode. First, though, let's get into the headlines with Sasha Barber-Gadd. It's Friday, the 6th of Feb.
Hello, Chris. Happy Friday. The Nationals have sent a counter-offer to the Liberals, hoping to push out a deadline set by Susan Lee for the parties to either reunite or split, possibly for good. The Liberal leader wanted an answer by 9 a.m. today on whether the Nats would accept the punishment she dished out to the three frontbenchers who crossed the floor to vote against Labor's hate speech bills. That punishment was a 6-month banishment from the Cabinet, by the way, and she wanted a recommitment from the Nats to Cabinet solidarity. David Littleproud has consistently maintained that he wants the Senators reinstated if their two parties are to rejoin.
Yes, and last night the Nats issued a counter-offer and a new suggested deadline. Lee is yet to respond, claiming last night her office hadn't received the letter. And this was all happening, Sash, as One Nation leader Pauline talked up the possibility of uniting the Liberals, the Nationals and her own party to oust Labor at the next election.
We will give you the numbers to form government. We will give you confidence and supply. That means the bills can be paid, but I will not take on ministerial positions. I want that independence. You will not control and tell One Nation what to do.
Oh, that list of demands on 7 there. It's an interesting proposal and, you know, it could be tempting to other Conservatives who will be looking to avoid another term in the political wilderness, let's be real, when we head to those polls in 2028.
Yeah, well, Labor will be going for a third term there. And, you know, we are at about that halfway point between the two elections. We only have 3-year terms here in Australia. It's not that long 4 years like it is in the US. It's a much tighter turnaround. And so, you know, they will be looking. The coalition, the fact that they're having these issues, they need to get them sorted ASAP.
Yeah.
Before we get into that final year run into the next election, because it'll really impact how the public views them and whether they could be a stable government.
But can you also imagine a coalition involving One Nation? That's unprecedented and would be... It'd be something that would be interesting to cover in the lead up to that election for sure.
It sure would be. Well, we will have to wait and see whether we see that mega coalition. I mean, is it a coalition? Is it a trialition? I don't know. Maybe we have to make up a new word. Look, let's change pace, but staying in Canberra, the Prime Minister has responded to the declaration of an attempted bombing at a Perth Invasion Day rally as a terrorist act.
I know that First Nations people around Australia are grappling with that. The combination of disbelief, anger and real fear. As a government, as a parliament and as a nation, we see you, we stand with you. We will do everything required to keep you and your loved ones safe.
So a 31-year-old man has been charged with 1 count of engaging in a terrorist act. He remains in police custody after allegedly throwing the homemade explosive device into a crowd of about 2,500 people on January 26.
The federal government's continuing to defend the highly contentious and upcoming visit of Israel's president to Australia, despite calls to withdraw the invitation and as a teenager who threatened to kill him faces court. 19-year-old Darcy Tinning has been accused of threatening to shoot Isaac Herzog with a pistol in a post he made to X last month. He's also accused of threatening to kill Donald Trump. The Sydney team was arrested on Wednesday and charged with 1 count of using a carriage service to make a threat to kill, appearing in court yesterday where he was ordered to not approach Herzog during his 5-day visit to Sydney next week.
Yeah, community tensions are running pretty high in the lead up to Herzog's visit, with national rallies planned in every capital city on Monday. Foreign Minister Penny Wong was among the senior government officials yesterday defending the invitation.
We have had 15 Australians die. We have families mourning, and this was a request from the Jewish community for President Herzog to visit. He is here to provide support to that community and to honour the victims of this horrific terror attack.
So that was Wong speaking on ABC Radio there. And, you know, she did also go on to say that she does understand the depth of feeling around this visit, especially from pro-Palestinian corners and allies. And look, there's no uniformity in Labor on this issue either. We know that some New South Wales Labor MPs are planning to join a protest against Herzog's visit. So it is deeply divisive, and it comes at a time when politicians really are trying to focus on social cohesion. We are actually deep diving this as well. We'll be talking about it on Monday morning, just about, you know, who this man is, why he's sowing such division, and what we can expect from his visit.
To Queensland now, where a man has been charged with 596 child abuse-related offences after he allegedly groomed and coerced hundreds of children in Australia and overseas. Police say 27-year-old Ethan Burns-Dodera was found in possession of 23,000 videos and images relating to his offending.
Police will further allege the man created multiple online fake profiles, both of males and females, and that he groomed, coerced and threatened young people into sending him sexually explicit material. Police will allege the man recorded his interactions with these victims and that he meticulously recorded and saved these images and videos into pre-named folders.
That was Detective Acting Chief Superintendent Denzel Clark from Queensland Police speaking there.
The charges include 244 counts of producing child abuse material, 163 counts of using a carriage service to procure persons under 16 years of age, and 87 counts of engaging in sexual activity with a child using a carriage service. Queensland Police say they are working with interstate and international authorities to identify the 459 victims across 15 countries, the majority of which are believed to be young boys aged between 5 and 15.
Childhood vaccination rates in Australia have plunged to a 30-year low, according to the latest figures from the Productivity Commission. Only 91.6% of babies between 12 and 15 months old are fully immunised, while the rate of fully protected kids between 2 years and 27 months has dropped to 89.8%. This includes coverage for things like measles, polio and whooping cough, among others.
Yeah, so you might think only 91%, only 89%, but the government actually has a target of 95% vaccination rate, because that is the figure that's needed to achieve herd immunity from highly infectious diseases. So that is to say, if a case of whooping cough was introduced in your suburb, because you had a 95% vaccination rate, it would be extremely difficult for it to then jump from kid to kid or person to person. So therefore, it can't really spread effectively. But as soon as you're under that number, it becomes easier and easier the lower those vaccination rates get. Now, we last had that 95% target achieved in 2020, and that was after driving up from record lows of about 50% in 1995 as a bunch of government policies that came into effect to try and increase how many kids were getting vaccinated. And of course, we know what came in 2020, Chris, COVID, and with that, an increase in vaccination hesitancy and anti-vax beliefs. And that is what experts are attributing this recent drop in vaccination rates to. Health Minister Mark Butler labelling the report alarming. Now, the government is looking to combat this. Last year, it released its new immunisation strategy, and that looked at achieving higher vaccination rates through a bunch of different means, including rebuilding trust in vaccines, improving access, using data to understand the attitudes and barriers to vaccination, but also supporting consideration of vaccine injury compensation as a way to maybe build confidence by acknowledging that, yes, there can be harmful effects of vaccines, but it is extremely rare. So this is definitely something that the government needs to address, because we're already seeing things like measles spreading much easier throughout our communities.
And if you're eagerly awaiting the return of footy, whatever your code may be, maybe the extended break is exactly what you needed. New research has dug in to find out just how stressful footy fandom is on our bodies, revealing we experience elevated heart rates on game days. Researchers from Bielefeld University in Germany tracked fans of 3rd Division football team Arminia Bielefeld as the club made the cup final, giving them wearable devices to track their heart rates.
So they found fans' stress levels were more than 40% higher on the day of the cup final, with their average heart rate up by 8 beats a minute. It's an even bigger impact for fans watching in person. Heart rates at an average of 94 beats per minute. That's compared to people watching on TV with about 79 beats per minute, or in a public gathering at 74 beats per minute. Now, the study also found that both the stress of your team doing badly and the joy of them doing well had an impact on your heart. So there you go. Now, you might be listening to this going, well, yeah, obviously. And the researchers did kind of acknowledge, like, yeah, sure, this might not be like the most groundbreaking study, but there hadn't actually been any scientific evidence to prove that our hearts are impacted by watching a footy game.
Yes,
so there you go.
I mean, I'm always someone that I sweat. I get the sweats, especially like the late night ones that I'm watching before coming in to do work the next morning. I'm just like, I can't fall asleep because it's just like, But I love it. I love that science is, looking into this thing. Well done, scientists from Germany.
Sure, well done, scientists.
Well done, scientists from Germany. Thanks for telling us everything that we already knew.
Do you know what I do when I'm watching a stressful game? Is I end up leaning to the side as like I'm trying to will my team down the field. So I find myself, I'm not joking, I'll be watching. I'm like, come on. I'm like, come on. So let's say we're going to the left left try line. And so, I find myself, I'm leaning as I'm trying to will them on to get the try.
My gosh,
and then I have to sit up straight. It's bizarre. Anyway, there you go. But footy season, it's not far away, guys. We're really close. A few more weeks. I think March for most codes. Anyway, that is it for the headlines today and for this week. Sorry for going rogue there. It's been a big one, guys, and we are getting into a deep dive that's looking ahead to Monday's Super Bowl, sticking with footy.
Yes, footy and sports.
But we're not talking about sport in this deep dive. We're talking about the meteoric rise of Bad Bunny. He's performing at the halftime show. He's got a really interesting story. Stick around. You can hear it all next.
Third down, no blitz here, but Hurts has some pressure.
It's that time of the year again where the world pretends to give a shit about a little old thing in the States called the Super Bowl.
Hey, what more do you want? To the Super Bowl, baby! To the Super Bowl! To the Super Bowl!
Now, don't get me wrong, I know out of the hundreds of millions of people who do flick on the NFL's annual championship game, a sizable chunk are there for the game. But if you're anything like me, you're among the millions of others who will be gathering around a screen on Monday, not waiting for a touchdown, but waiting to witness a moment that could very well stamp itself into the history books.
Some people want it all.
Whether it's Alicia Keys hitting a bung note, like you just heard, 50 Cent hanging upside down like a bat, or Janet Jackson suffering a wardrobe malfunction that'll forever be referred to as Nipplegate, the Super Bowl halftime show is where it's at. And this year, history is guaranteed to be made in California when the artist who just picked up Grammy for Best Album of the Year takes to one of the world's biggest stages.
It's official. Puerto Rico's finest, Bad Bunny, will be the Apple Music Super Bowl 60 halftime show.
Now, this won't be Bad Bunny's first time in a Super Bowl halftime show, but it will be his first time headlining, something that's caused a bit of a stir in Donald Trump's America. Joining me now to unpack what we know about the Puerto Rican megastar, the controversy surrounding his selection by the NFL, and what we can expect to see come Monday is the host of the Hit Network's national music show, Shawnee B from The Pulse. Shawnee, welcome to The Briefing. Bad Bunny's halftime show is being described as history-making. What can you tell us about that?
I feel like the Super Bowl is always such a cultural moment. Whether you follow football, whether you don't, whether you love music, everyone tunes in for that halftime show. I'm not a football fan, but I know for the last however long, since I can remember, I've always wanted to watch the halftime show. And this one in particular is going to be super special because it is an artist who has had such an impact on the music industry, but also an artist who, raps and sings in Spanish. It's so special, and I'm so excited about this one. I think it's going to go down as a moment in history.
Well, we've had a number of Latin artists performing before, like we've had J-Lo, Shakira, Gloria Estefan's done it a bunch of times. But he will be the first Latino and Spanish-speaking artist to headline the Super Bowl. So, yes, huge history-making moment. I do want to know a little bit about his story. I mean, a lot of people over the last year have heard his name, have heard his music for sure, but I don't think a lot of people know about his rise to mega stardom. No. What can you tell us about that?
Well, he is, he's from Puerto Rico. It's crazy to think in 2016 he was selling groceries. Like he was bagging groceries.
In Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico, yeah. And he was putting music on SoundCloud. And I think the first song that kind of blew up with him was called Diles. I don't know if I've said that right, Diles. My pronunciation's bad. I'm so sorry for all the Spanish-speaking people out there. But that one blew up when he was working in the grocery store.
Yep.
And then after that, he instead of signing a big deal with a record label, he actually went with an independent record label who he's still with today, which is crazy. I think he had a lot of offers coming through for big record labels, and I think he just wanted to stay in control of his own sound, his image, and that's something that's always been so important to him. I don't think he wanted to get pushed into a commercial space. I think, he wanted to stay true to his roots. Sometimes they can try and make those artists sing in English.
Yeah.
So I think that was something that was always really important to him. And I mean, it's paid off, one of the most streamed artists in the world, the most streamed artist in the world for, I know last year he was.
Yeah.
And I know he has been for a few years in the past as well. So it's pretty incredible.
Yes, and we saw this week with the Grammys, he picked up Album of the Year. What are some other accolades that really sell the story of Bad Bunny a little bit for someone who might just still be unfamiliar with him?
21 billion streams last year in 2025, which is crazy, just above Taylor Swift. And I mean, in our world, Taylor Swift is the biggest artist ever, right? A few years ago, he was featured as Apple Music's Up Next, which is where they feature an artist that they think is going to blow up and become the next big thing. And then a few years later, he becomes Apple Music's Artist of the Year, which was a huge moment for him. And they've been real champions of him. Obviously, they run the Super Bowl. They bring people the halftime show. They've been on him since day one. And the fact that they get to present him as the halftime performer is really cool, And back in the day, I mean, back in 2020, when J-Lo and Shakira did it, they brought him out on stage as I think they were trying to be like, this is the next big thing. So there's been so many people, so many big artists that have believed in him for so long. I know Ricky Martin has, a lot of those, Latino artists. But I think that's what makes his story so special. We've seen so many Latino artists come through. We've seen, Daddy Yankee back in the day. He was kind of like one of the first kind of rappers that went to the mainstream. But then Ricky and J-Lo, but they of course sang in English. And then they go off and they do their Spanish albums. But then they come back and they do something in English. But the fact that he's managed to become the biggest artist in the world by sticking true to his roots is truly incredible. I think that's something that he's really proud of.
So which brings us to, Monday. Monday he'll be headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. I'm Jeter. I can't wait, to see what he brings to the show. Talk me through, though, the initial reactions, because it wasn't all entirely positive.
No, it wasn't. There were obviously a lot of political figures who weren't happy about it. Trump was very vocal, which I think is such a shame because this is such a beautiful moment in history for the Latino people. I mean, I don't think people realize how much they influence culture and their music's influence culture, whether it be through fashion, whether it be through music. I mean, I remember when Billie Eilish first blew up, and I remember watching an interview with her at the time, and she said, "Who are you most influenced by?" And she said Rosalia, who's another incredible Latino artist. But the fact that they have been real tastemakers in the industry. So the fact that anyone would doubt them headlining a Super Bowl was really strange to me. But now I see that they're doing the Turning Point USA alternative halftime show, which honestly just makes me so angry. And
that's going to be headlined by Kid Rock.
who hasn't done anything since all summer long, I don't think, and hasn't been in the media for the best things over the last few years. So that is just bizarre to me. But there has been a lot of positivity as well right across the world. And I think it's also introducing a lot of people to Latino music and reggaeton. And that's why I'm so excited to see what happens at the Super Bowl, because I think sometimes we can get a bit caught up in the lead up to the Super Bowl about who's going to make a surprise appearance. And I think we shouldn't do that because it sometimes makes us disappointment and we actually lose sight of how incredible the performance was. I think about that with Rihanna. I think Rihanna's performance is one of the most memorable to me, whether you liked it or not.
Say.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I was to say Rihanna's Super Bowl performance, you think of that red outfit.
You think of that red outfit.
Yeah, you don't.
What else do you think of?
You think of her being pregnant.
Yep, what else?
Revealing it.
But
else? No features.
No features.
No features.
Yeah.
And I think people were like, well, she's collaborated with so many artists. There's going to be so many features. And she didn't bring anyone out. And I think that people came off that disappointed, but I think it's been one of those ones over time people have appreciated more since rewatching it. But I'm trying not to get too caught up in who he might bring out.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's every chance he could bring J Balvin out. I think there's every chance he could bring Shakira, Ricky, those artists that have kind of paved the way. Rosalia, this is his time to really showcase what the world of reggaeton and Latino music has to offer.
I want to dive into the political for a second longer. We do know that he rallied around Kamala Harris during the presidential election. We know that he left the US out of his world tour last year out of fear that ICE would be conducting raids at his concerts. And of course, this week, we heard him speak out against ICE when accepting the Grammy.
Before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say ICE out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
But I do want to ask you, the Super Bowl stage has never really been one that isn't political. When I think back to just some in the last 10 years, Lady Gaga, she did open with a patriotic God Bless America, which was beautiful, but she eventually got into Born This Way, which is a queer anthem.
Yeah.
We saw Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez, they had kids in cages in protest of, deportation and mass deportations of Latin kids. She also had a Puerto Rican flag that she walked out on stage to.
Yeah.
And Eminem took a knee during Lose Yourself back in 2022. So we know that the Super Bowl and politics, they do mesh. Do you think we're going to see Bad Bunny following in those footsteps and making a bit of a political statement come Monday?
I think he'll do it tastefully. And I think the way he did it at the Grammys was very tasteful too. I think he'll definitely make some sort of statement because, while he has that stage, it'll be important to him. But I think it'll be tasteful. I think it'll be respectful. And I think the main message he will want to get across is the music and the culture of his people. And I think that's just so impactful. And it's just that sentiment, choose love and not this, or whatever side you're on. I think there's just sometimes so many, it just comes across very aggressive and hateful. And he used his platform back in 2024 to speak on immigration policy and call for compassion over enforcement. And he included satirical and political commentary about Trump and immigration in his music and videos. He has done it over the years. And I think these conservative figures, he's just everything that they hate. Yeah.
Well, let's, put our positive glasses back on and let's look to what we're going to see on Monday. Shawnee B, give us the sell. What are we in for with a Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime performance?
I think we're going to,
Are we shaking our asses? Shawnee B is what I want to know.
I think there's going to be a bit of shaking our asses.
Yes.
I think it's something that our grandparents are going to love because it's got this I've watched his recent tour. I haven't seen it live. I'm going to be seeing it live at the end of the month. But this DTMF album, the latest album, there is just, as I said, he goes back to his roots and the roots of his people, and there's salsa in there and this just classic Latin music. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think there's going to be something in it for everyone, and I think that so many people are going to walk away from it getting it and being Bad Bunny fans, and hopefully exploring the culture and the world of Latin music, because it is just such a beautiful space.
What a beautiful note to end it on. Shawnee B, thanks for joining us on The Briefing.
Pleasure.
That was host of the Hit Network's national music show, The Pulse, Shawnee B, speaking with me there. And that is it for this episode of The Briefing. If you enjoyed this chat, or you learned something new, or you just had a good old time listening to Shawnee and I chat, feel free to leave us a review and a rate wherever you are listening. And if you're listening on Spotify, chuck us a comment. We love hearing from you. I'm Chris Biru. I'll catch you next time.